Jai Hind everyone. In this video, we are covering the rest chapter of Bricks, Beats and Bones. Now, in this video, we'll start with discovering the Harappan civilization. So far, we have examined facets of Harappan civilization in the context of how archaeologists have used evidence from material remains to piece together parts of a fascinating history. However, there is another history as well about how archaeologists discovered the civilization. So till now, we have understood how the history of this civilization has been framed based on material remains, but from here we'll study how this civilization has been discovered. So in the previous evidence we have learned archaeogenetics. So archaeogenetics is basically the study of DNA of ancient population. And what are the methods used? It involved various methods of molecular genetics. So this is the method that is used to understand the history of Harappans. When Harappan cities fell into ruin, people gradually forgot all about them. When men and women began living in the area millennia later, so 1 millennium is 1000 years. So we can see the evidence of the growth or civilization only a millennium after the ruins of Harappan civilization or Indus Valley civilization. They did not know what to make of the strange artifacts that occasionally surfaced, washed by floods or exposed by soil erosion or turned up while plowing a field or digging for treasure. So basically, we know when the silt gets built up, these artifacts will be buried in the soil, and this is how the archaeologists find today's evidences or material finds also. Now we'll study about Cunningham's confusion. So who is Cunningham? The full name is Alexander Cunningham, and he is the first Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. When Cunningham began archaeological evidences in the mid-19th century, archaeologists prefer to use the written word, text, and inscriptions as a guide to investigations. In fact, Cunningham's main interest was in the archaeology of the early historic, that is from 4th 6th century BCE, means 600 BCE to 400 CE, and later period. So this is where his main interest was. He used accounts left by Chinese Buddhist pilgrims who had visited the subcontinent between the 4th and 11th century CE. So the Chinese pilgrims who have visited between 400 to 1100 CE, from their accounts he tried to get the information about the early settlements and their location also. Cunningham also collected, documented, and translated inscriptions found during his surveys. When he excavated sites, he tended to recover artifacts that he thought had cultural value. A site like Harappa, which was not part of itinerary of Chinese pilgrims was not known as an early historic society, did not fit very neatly within his framework of investigation. So he tried to find out from Chinese pilgrim accounts, but the information that has been extracted from their accounts and the information till then he had known about Harappa, there wasn't a match between both of them. So although Harappan artifacts were found fairly often during the 19th century, and some of these reached Cunningham, he did not realize how old these were. A Harappan seal was given to Cunningham by an English man. He noted the object but unsuccessfully tried to place it within the time frame. So he was unable to place the object regarding which time period it belonged to, with which he was familiar. So the time period the Cunningham knows was different from the time period of the seal. This was because he, like many others, thought Indus Indian history began with the first cities in the Ganga Valley. So, before the discovery of Harappan civilization, many thought that the Indian history started from the development of cities in the Ganga Valley, that is Vedic civilization. But only after the discovery of the Indus Valley civilization, that people realized that India has a profound history, that is that where that roots date back to several millennia together before. Given his specific focus, it is not surprising that he missed the significance of Harappa. Now, sites, mounds, and layers. So we'll see what are these. Archaeologist sites are formed through the production, use, and discarding of materials and structures. When people continue to live in the same place, their constant use and reuse of landscape results in the build of occupational debris called a mound. Mound. Brief or permanent abandonment result in alteration of landscape by wind or water activity and erosion. Occupations are detected by traces of ancient materials found in layers which differ from one another in color. So basically, so for any archaeologist, for any place, we'll see layers. So where each layer indicates a different time period of settlement. So these layers are very important while discovering or trying to find evidence about a particular site. Abandonment or desertion, what are called sterile layers, can be identified by the absence of such traces. So, let me explain this. So, for example, these are the layers that are that were identified in a site. So, in the first, here we have some items. Here we have some items, and here we have some items. But we don't find any in this layer. It means in this time period, if they are able to identify, they can, from this we can say that there was abandonment of settlement. There was no settlement on this layer in this particular time period, and later after the passage of time, again there was a settlement, and this layer indicates that. So this is how the layers help in identifying the history of any site. Generally, the lowest layers. So if we find this, the arrangement of layers, this will be the lowest layer and this will be the youngest one. The study of these layers is called stratigraphy. So the study of these layers is called stratigraphy. Artifacts found in layers can be assigned to specific culture periods and can thus provide a cultural sequence for a site. So this is how the studying layers help in piecing the history together. A new old civilization. Subsequently, seals were discovered at Harappa by archaeologists such as Dayaram Sanhi in early decades of 19th century. So, precisely 1921, in 1921, Dayaram Sanhi discovered Harappan seals in Harappa in layers that were definitely much older than early historic levels. It was then that their significance began to be realized. Another archaeologist, who is Rakhal Das Banerjee, popularly known as R.D. Banerjee, found similar seals at Mohenjo-daro. So the seals found at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa are similar. So from this, leading to the conjecture that these sites were part of a single archaeological culture. So conjecture means guessing. So guessing based on what? The similarity in the seals found at both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. These sites were part of single archaeological culture. Based on these sites, in 1924, so in 1924, who was the Director General of ASI? John Marshall. So in 1924, John Marshall announced the discovery of a new civilization in the Indus Valley to the world. And S.N. Roy noted, so who coined the word Indus Valley civilization? It is John Marshall. S.N. Roy noted that the story of Indian archaeology, it is his book by S.N. Roy. Marshall left India 3,000 years older than he had found her. So based what is S.N. Roy saying? Till then, the people knew the Indian history up to a certain point, but with John Marshall, the history has gone back to 3,000 years ago. This was because similar, till then unidentified seals were found at excavations at Mesopotamian sites also. It was then that the world knew not only of a new civilization, but was also one contemporaneous. So this Indus Valley civilization was in contemporary with Mesopotamian civilization. In fact, John Marshall's stint as Director General of ASI marked a major change in Indian archaeology. He was the first professional archaeologist to work in India and brought his experience of working in Greece and Crete to the field. More importantly, though like Cunningham, he too was interested in spectacular finds. He was equally keen to look for patterns of everyday life. Marshall, but we'll study how the process of excavation has been done by John Marshall and how does it affect our history. Marshall tended to excavate along rectangular horizontal units. So if you see, actually layers help to find the history, but John had gone horizontally, ignoring the stratigraphy. So in John Marshall's study, he ignored stratigraphy. This meant that all the artifacts removed, recovered from the unit were grouped together, even if they were found at different stratigraphy levels. So here, if we see the level, this layer indicates a separate period, this layer indicates a separate period, and this layer indicates a separate period. But as John Marshall has gone horizontally, the artifacts that are belonging to different time periods are grouped together. So what happens in this way? As a result, valuable information about the context of these founds was irretrievably lost. So retrieval means again we can get it back together. Irretrievable means it once is lost. So you cannot get it back. So this is how the process of John Marshall's study affected the history of the country. And after that, we have used the new techniques. It was R.E.M. Wheeler. He took over as Director General of ASI in 1944. So 1924, John Marshall, Director General, and in 1944, R.E.M. Wheeler, who rectified this problem. So what was the problem? Horizontal excavation. Wheeler recognized that it was necessary to follow the stratigraphy of the mound rather than dig mechanically along uniform horizontal lines. Moreover, as an ex-army brigadier, he brought with him a military precision to the practice of archaeology. So the technique used by R.E.M. Wheeler was stratigraphy, whereas John Marshall's was horizontal excavation. The frontiers of Harappan civilization have little or no connection with present-day national boundaries. So what is it being told here? The expansion of Harappan civilization is in both India and Pakistan. However, with the partition of subcontinent and the creation of Pakistan, the major known sites became part of Pakistan. So if you see Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Chanudaro, Balakot, Sutka, Gendor, these are all now part of Pakistan. This has spurred Indian archaeologists to try and locate sites in India. So till then, what were the discovered sites have become part of Pakistan. So what was the work taken up by then archaeologists? They tried to find the settlements in India. An extensive survey in Kutch has revealed a number of Harappan settlements, and explorations in Punjab, Haryana have been added to the list of Harappan sites, while Kalibangan, Lothal, Rakhigari, Dholavira have been discovered and explored and excavated as part of these efforts, plus fresh explorations continue. Over the decades, new issues have assumed importance, where some archaeologists are often keen to obtain a cultural sequence, others try to understand the logic underlying the location of specific sites. They also grapple with the wealth of artifacts, trying to figure out the functions these may have served. So, different archaeologists have taken up different purpose of their excavation. So some try to find out the cultural sequence, some try to find out the reason behind location of sites, some try to find out the uses of the artifacts that have been produced in the civilization. Since the 1980s, there has also been growing international interest in Harappan archaeology. Specialists from the subcontinent and abroad have been jointly working at both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They are using modern scientific techniques, including surface exploration, to recover traces of clay, stone, metal, and plant and animal remains, as well as to minutely analyze every scrap of available evidence. These explorations promise to yield interesting results in the future. So this is about the discovery of the civilization. So who are the main persons in the exploration? That is, one is John Marshall and the next one is R.E.M. Wheeler. Problems of piecing together the past. As we have seen, this is not the Harappan script that helps in understanding the ancient civilization. So for any identification of history or any framing of history, we use two methods. That is, one archaeological evidence and the second one is literature or inscription. So in Harappa, there is little value for Harappan script because it isn't it is not deciphered yet. Whereas the complete dependence was on material evidences to try to get to know the history of the civilization. Rather, it is material evidence that allows archaeologists to better reconstruct Harappan life. This material could be pottery, tools, ornaments, household objects, etc. Organic materials such as cloth, leather, wood, and reeds generally decompose, especially in tropical regions. What survive are stone, burnt clay, and metals. It is also important to remember that only broken or useless objects would have been thrown away. Other things would probably have been recycled. Consequently, valuable artifacts that are found intact were either lost or in the past or hoarded and never retrieved. In other words, such finds are accidental rather than typical. So what happened? If you have any object, we use it until it is broken, or else we use it for another purpose like recycling. Recovering artifacts is just the beginning of archaeological enterprise. Archaeologists then classify their finds. One simple principle of classification is in terms of materials such as stone, clay, metal, bone, ivory, etc. The second and more complicated is in terms of its function. So what are the two broad categories to classify the objects? One is the materials used to make them and the functions the objects used to perform, or the purpose they have been used for. Archaeologists have to decide whether, for instance, an artifact is a tool or an ornament or both, or something meant for ritual use. An understanding of the function of an artifact is often shaped by its resemblance with present day things like beads. Beads for present day we use it for jewelry, querns for grinding, stone blades to cut pieces, or pots for storage. So these are so based on current day's usage, they try to classify the objects. Archaeologists also try to identify the function of an artifact by investigating the context in which it was found. Was it found in a house, or in a drain, or in a grave, or in a kiln? So the location where the artifacts have been found will also play a major role in their classification. Sometimes archaeologists have to take recourse to indirect evidence. For instance, though there are traces of cotton at some Harappan sites, to find out about clothing, we have to depend on indirect evidence, including depictions in sculpture. So, although we have found traces of cotton, we have to see the depictions in culture. Like in the priest king statue, we have seen him wearing a shawl-like clothing. So we have to connect different pieces together to come upon a conclusion. Archaeologists have to develop frames of reference. We have seen that the first Harappan seal that was found couldn't be understood till archaeologists had a context in which to place it, both in terms of the cultural sequence in which it was found and also in terms of a comparison with finds in Mesopotamia. So this frames of reference is important for developing the information. The next, problems of interpretation. The problems of archaeological interpretation are perhaps most evident in attempts to reconstruct religious practices. Early archaeologists thought that certain objects which seemed unusual or unfamiliar may have had a religious significance. So, what did archaeologists think? They thought if the object seemed unusual or unfamiliar, so maybe it was used for ritual purposes or religious purposes. These include terracotta figurines of women. So what are these objects that are kept under religious purpose category? That is terracotta figurines of women, which is heavily jeweled, and some with elaborate headdresses. These were regarded as what? These are regarded as mother goddess. This terracotta figurines of women were known as mother goddesses. Rare stone statuary of men in an almost standardized posture, seated with one hand on the knee, such as the priest king. So one female, that is mother goddesses made up of terracotta, whereas one stone made priest king. were also similarly classified. In another instances, structures have been assigned ritual significance. Example, the Great Bath. Great Bath, which was found in Mohenjo-daro. And then we have fire altars found at Kalibangan and Lothal. So where were fire altars found? They were found in Kalibangan and Lothal. Attempts have been made to reconstruct the religious beliefs and practices by examining seals, some of which seem to depict ritual scenes. Others with plant motifs are thought to indicate nature worship. So, seals which had plant motifs thought to indicate what? Nature worship. Some animals, such as one-horned animal, which is called unicorn, depicted on seals. So, this unicorn is depicted on seals, seem to be mythical. In some seals, a figure shown seated, cross-legged, in a yogic posture and surrounded by animals. It has been regarded as Proto-Shiva. That is an early form of one of the major deities of Hinduism. Besides, conical stone objects have been classified as lingas. So if you see, these are classified as lingas. Many reconstructions of Harappan religion are made on the assumption that later traditions provide parallels with earlier ones. This is because archaeologists often move from the known to the unknown, that is from the present to the past. So we know about our present living. So from the known history, we'll move to the unknown history. So we try to use the features that are currently in practice to identify the history that is in the past. When this is plausible in the case of stone querns and pots, it becomes more speculative when we extend it to religious symbols. Let us look, for instance, at the Proto-Shiva seal. So this is the Proto-Shiva. Here we can see a person sitting cross-legged. And we also have animals here. This is the one horn, that is unicorn. And we have something here and also here. And here we have the script, which is in which is not be seen properly. The earliest religious text, Rig Veda, when it is compiled between 1500 to 1000 BCE, mentions a god named Rudra, which is a name used for Shiva in later Puranic traditions, that is from first millennium CE to in the first millennium CE. However, unlike Shiva, Rudra in the Rig Veda is neither depicted as Pashupati. So who is Pashupati? He is like lord of animals in general, nor as a yogi. In other words, this depiction doesn't match the description of Rudra in Rig Veda. So in Rig Veda, Rudra is neither depicted as Pashupati nor as a yogi. But in the seal, we see him sitting cross-legged, and we also have animals surrounding him. So there is no match between the Rudra in Rig Veda and this Proto-Shiva seal. And there is this, then possibly a shaman, or some scholars have suggested. So who is a shaman? Shamans are men or women who claim magical and healing powers and also has ability to communicate with the other world. So these are the features of shaman, where they claim that they have magical or healing powers, and also they have the ability to communicate with the other world. So this is about the religious practices where there is no there is the articulative evidence from which we can say that, okay, these are the practices that are possibly in practice in this civilization, but only we can make the speculations or the assumptions. So this is about the chapter. In this, we have completely covered the chapter, and also we have gone line to line so that it will be beneficial to tackle the questions that are being asked in the examination. So I hope it is beneficial for you all. If you like, please like the video and share the video, and we'll meet in the next class with the next chapter. Jai Hind.